what you want, when you want it, where you want it. This is The Mesh.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
Welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange on the Mesh Podcast Network, a monthly conversation about startups and small businesses with ideas, tools, and advice to operate your business more effectively. On today's show, should you be in business with your significant other? We'll discuss a recent article and give you some thoughts on that with our guests, Julia and Ray Campbell. And in addition to talking about whether you should be in business with your spouse, Julia and Ray, who are the owners of Campbell Design, an architectural firm in Denver, North Carolina, are going to give us some of their ideas on things that perhaps you shouldn't be doing with your small business based on some of their experiences. Finally, we're going to wind up with our Small Business of the Month feature, where we'll highlight some interesting businesses that you should be checking out. Greetings, my name is Jeff Newville. I'm your co-host and director of the Small Business Center at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory, North Carolina. I'm joined by my co-host, Gary Muller, who is Dean of the School of Business, Industry, and Technology at Catawba Valley Community College in Hickory. Gary, how is it going?
Jeff, it's going great. I'm really excited about listening to our guests today.
Well, and our guests are here with us. Let's welcome them to
That'd
our
be
podcast.
Awesome.
Julia, Ray Campbell, welcome to the Entrepreneur Exchange. How are you guys doing today?
Doing good, Jeff.
Great.
Gary.
Glad that you guys are here. And for our listeners, people, when we say Denver, people often think of the West, but there is a Denver in North Carolina. So tell us a little bit about Campbell Design, where you're located, some of the things that you guys do.
We're a commercial architecture firm. We don't do residential, but we do office, retail, churches, industry, medical. And yes, we're in Denver. It's a good location to reach a lot of different counties. And
the Denver of the East.
Denver of the East. Bring your water skis, not your snow skis.
Okay. So you're like strategically located close to Charlotte, North Carolina.
Yes.
And also you get into some of the Hickory, Piedmont, North Carolina, so you sort of have a decent-sized footprint there.
Correct, yes.
Yeah, we were established a little bit in Catawba County, and we took a good look at the demographics when we started the business and realized we were doing a little bit of business and didn't know much about Denver, North Carolina. Like, Denver, where is this? Well, it's on the other side of the lake. We call it the undiscovered side of the lake. And when we decided we were looking at it based on where we could drive basically within an hour, and we hit all the major areas we can get to, depends on where you go in Charlotte. So Charlotte, it's like, how far are you from Charlotte?
You can get to Charlotte. You may not be able to get through it.
That's exactly it. If you're going to South Park, it's convenient to nobody but South Park. So, but for us, it's been a great central location. And not only have we done business in North Carolina, then there's other projects that I've worked on that I've worked nationwide. So it's a really good place to get in and out of if you need to fly to.
Well, Gary and I usually, when we do our podcast, we usually talk a little bit about an article that one of us has come across, and just the way things worked out this month. I was going through my local Charlotte Observer earlier this month and saw an article written by Joyce Rosenberg with the Associated Press about how married couples can work together and some of the challenges that they face when they're working together, and truth be told, Gary and I both have a little bit of experience with that in that in my previous life in the hosiery industry, my wife worked at my company for a while, and Gary's wife works at our community college. So
that's why I'm so excited about today. See if I can learn some tips.
You can learn some tips. I thought you were going to be giving us some tips, Gary, but
probably my tip is to make sure I don't talk too much.
That's always a good tip. But you can Google Joyce Rosenberg and probably find the article because it's online. She's an AP writer. Some of the pitfalls that they talk about in this article is sometimes spouses might not have their business roles and responsibilities particularly well defined. and might be stepping on each other's toes or might not be clear on what each other are supposed to be doing. The fact that often spouses might have vastly different types of communication styles or decision-making styles. And I'm looking at Ray and Julia because I've known you guys for a few years through my work with the Small Business Center, and you guys have come to some of our seminars, and I hope we're still friends after this podcast completes. But Ray seems thoughtful, analytical. Julia, you seem to say quickly what is on your mind. So, in terms of communication styles, you two seem very different. Has that ever been a problem for you guys?
Yes, it has been a problem for us. Ray and I are very different. I think sometimes in working together is like a marriage. You kind of marry what you don't have. When Ray speaks, it's like the voice of God because he's really quiet. And when he says something, it's really thoughtful. And I tend to just spew. I do think about what I say. It just doesn't all spew out. But I do think a lot about...
You don't have like a Twitter account where you just get up in the morning and start tweeting crazy stuff?
Oh, no, that would be a bad thing.
Yeah, 'cause I hear some people do that.
There are people who do that. I am not one of them because one of the things I've learned in running a business is I don't need to let every single thing that is on my mind out there because I never know who I'm going to offend. So I've learned to pull back a lot in what I say publicly. And that includes, what we post on our Facebook page, what we put out there, what I do on Instagram, any of that type of thing. Or, that's something that we tend to pull back on. But,
That's a good tip for everybody in every situation.
Yeah, what not to do in business thing there.
And we'll get to that.
We'll get to that one later.
We'll get to that.
But Ray and I have very different styles there, and so we'll get back to Ray.
Sometimes, when you marry your opposite, and it fills in all the gaps, so that can be valuable. If you're faced with a problem, each of you have different skills, and you look at each other like, well, you take this one because you're better at that area. You're better at laying the hammer down on someone.
Is she the bad cop?
Yes, I am.
So it's
I'm sort of smiling as Ray is speaking, and I'm sort of feeling a little bit bad because I'm really not trying to put your relationship in a bad situation, Ray. You seem to be choosing your words carefully, and I hope you're not sleeping on the couch tonight when our podcast is completed.
No, but it's one of the things with working with your spouse is dividing your talents. I'm trying to tell the positive things.
Yeah.
Divide your talents to conquer the task at hand. And also, it's sometimes good to have a little push, especially in a business where creativity is an ongoing process. Sometimes she'll push me when I think it's already good enough, and the little push gets it better.
Mm-hmm.
And
how do you take that little push?
Then I have to silently think to myself, oh gosh, that push made it better.
I understand that feeling.
And do I say that out loud?
It works both ways. I mean, on things where, sometimes I have a different vision because I am an interior designer. He's an architect, but I also have more of a business background than Ray does because I've been in, retail management before. So I see things differently than Ray does. So, you have to. We work in a very collaborative field. Architecture. You cannot work in architecture in a void. I don't care if you're doing interiors or if you're doing furniture, whatever you're doing. This is not the type of business where it's all about what your ideas are and you basically don't want to hear what anybody else says. We work collaboratively with each other, but also with the client. So this is part of what, I push Ray. He's like, well, they came in with this and this is fine. I'm like, yeah, but our job is to make it better. And to push not only him, but our staff and say, there are better ways to do this. And sometimes you realize that when you do that, you may scare the client because they think they know everything about what they're doing, but we're the ones with the experience.
Curious because when I think about my wife and I, and when it comes to decision making, I'm more. I need a little time to digest. I don't like to make split decisions. At least, maybe about where I go to lunch is fine. But in terms of buying cars or houses or whatnot, I'm like, I need information. I need to think. I need to work it from different angles, from a decision making perspective. And not to say that my wife is impulsive, but she's just more. she wants to get it done now, and she's if it wasn't for her, I'd probably be if it wasn't for her, I wouldn't have children, and I'd probably be single and quite the mess. But anyway. From your perspective, do you guys have similar decision-making type styles, different decision-making type styles, or how has that work for you guys?
I internalize a lot. Every first step to a lot of projects is listening, but I internalize a lot, and then it'll click and spill out of me. So a lot of times in meetings, it's actually good that Julia's there to keep the meeting going. Mm-hmm. And sometimes I might tell someone, don't be alarmed if I don't say much, because...
It's not good for a podcast, Ray, but go ahead.
I'll have to tell a client that I do internalize, and I do have things going on in my head, and I'm building models in my head. And don't be alarmed if I'm quiet, because it will click and it will spill out. So sometimes I have to say that, but if I have someone else with me at the meeting, it can keep things going while I'm internalizing and sketching. But yeah, so I work like that, and Julia doesn't.
That's a good example of teamwork.
And one thing that helps, if I was giving advice to people, is we have multiple projects, so that therefore we can work on separate projects and do our own thing, so we're not there all the time together on a project. And then it's like, well, I need her help or she needs my help.
Gives you a little space.
Right. And then there are other projects where, we have to work all the way through it side by side. So, but it helps to have different tasks or have a little space, different projects.
There was times in the business, especially during the recession, where it was just Ray and I. That was it. There was no staff. There was nobody else. We had to figure a way to get through this and work together. And while I'm a little bit more rambunctious, I guess, that way, I will talk through it. It doesn't mean I haven't analyzed it. I'm very analytical. I will look at every side of things. But the one thing we have a problem with is people don't want to make a decision, because sometimes not making a decision is your decision. And Ray and I have very different styles that way, where I'm able to cut it off, move forward, and do something else. And this is part of the bad side of working together is Ray brings work home. His work is always going on. And I have multiple other tasks besides being a business owner. I'm a mother. I run the house. I have all these other things that need to be done.
I'm at home.
Yeah. My home, the car. It's okay. But there's so many different things that, I have to do that I've got to be able to cut. If he wants to keep working that and it's going on in his head, that's fine. But I've got to stop that so I can get other things done. And I don't know, that's sometimes it's just how different people deal with life.
Well, that's why I said I feel like at home. That's exactly what my wife says. Because and she's right. She's a mom. She's taking care of the house, and it's okay if I work on things at home.
All right, Gary, you're quite the Neanderthal. We know that. We'll move on. And now, one of the things that is said in the article that I found interesting, and I guess you guys have an office. Sometimes spouses might work out of their home, have a home office, and one of the things that it says is that an issue can be for working couples is just being together 24/7. From business and home ain't always good. Sometimes people need space, they need a break, and it sounds like the fact that you guys have different projects going on helps you with that. Do you guys ever need a little time out from
Oh yeah. Oh yeah. Well, the other thing is, one of the best things we did is his office is on one side of the building and mine's on the other side.
Yeah, we're looking for a lot to buy that's only like 15 feet wide and 200 feet long, and we'll put our offices at either end.
Okay, all right. Hey.
But working at home, I don't know how to get. I mean, we never really had planned to work together. This is one of the, you were asking like, how did the business come about? And I know that's sort of later on maybe, but while I have a degree in interiors and Ray's an architect, we never planned to work together. So, as far as running a business goes, that's a little different way to, it kind of happened, and it happened because of a child. We had our child, and, life changes. But working together, you better have a really, really strong marriage. And the one thing I think in our marriage, even before we worked together, Ray has his space, and he can go off and do his thing. I have my space, and I go off and do my thing. But we always get back together. So, and when I say like he goes off with the guys because he's around women all day, he needs to go off with the guys.
I text my friends and say, "Get me away from these."
Well, he's around women at work, and then he comes home to his daughter and myself, and he needs to have time outside of the office.
We're going to take him drinking after we finish the podcast. So
and that's different from whatever other day. Oops.
Okay. Well, now people know what we really do at the community college. So moving along. So anyway, so some of the things that come out in the article that are suggestions that for successful business partnerships with spouses. It does talk a lot about communication and the fact that you've got to have very open and honest, sometimes tough conversations. I think something that you guys hit on, recognizing each other's strengths and weaknesses and taking advantage of them, which it sounds like something you guys are pretty cognizant of, and understanding that it requires some compromise, which for those of us that have been married a while, there's some of that associated with a marriage. You're going to have to work it out, and also a successful business. Is that a fair statement? Would you guys concur with that?
We would concur, right?
Ray's thinking about it.
there's in business and in design, there's compromise, and you have to make, like she said, you have to make decisions. You have to make them relatively quickly. I guess in speaking on the design terms of it, you have to set yourself a deadline and come up with a creative thought.
Well, I think on the marriage side of it too, Ray, I mean, there's always compromise.
All right, moving along.
Yes.
All right. Well,
Eventually.
Things
She'll come around to your point of view sooner or later.
Things have to move forward, so compromises have to be made. Things proceed with necessary sacrifices, both in business and design.
Well, I think that's a fair point, and for you, and I'm sure particularly when you guys have such a creative element to what you guys have to do, and creativity is part of it. But also, I imagine you're dealing with clients who have budgets and costs and things, and we have probably all dealt with people in different lines of business who have elaborate ideas on what they would like to do, but the old the beer budgets champagne idea type thing, where they've got great expensive ideas but not the budget to bring them to bear. So I'm sure that's something that comes off happens to you guys on a regular basis.
It does, and actually, if somebody is on a budget and we know that up front, that's not a bad challenge. I mean, we believe in realistic expectations. So of everything that we do, that's part of what we have to do. Not everybody is going to come in with an unlimited budget. They're really fun jobs when you get them.
Well, I imagine that's pretty infrequent that people, the unlimited budget ones. You let us know who they are.
You'll find out eventually when they
they're out.
when they send that press release out. You will know, and Campbell Design will be on that.
All right. Sounds good. Sounds good.
We always ask what the budget is up front, and we work budget backwards.
We're a little bit different that way as a firm because nothing makes us more excited than seeing someone be successful and then come back to us and say, let's do the next building or the next phase or the next addition. And that's a huge plus. I mean, we've got over 600 projects we've done and maybe 10 that were never built. So that says a lot about how we work as a firm, how we work together, and how we can meet people's expectations.
Well, the reason that the main reason, and I've known you guys for a while, and I always enjoy you guys, but at one point in time, you told me that you sort of had a list of lessons learned of things that maybe as a business, as a small business, you shouldn't be doing, or through your experience, and it always sound like, hey, at some point that would be an interesting podcast. So You can protect the names of the innocent if you like, or you can throw them out there as well. But you guys have been in business since 1998. I guess that means
20 years.
20 plus years at this point in time. And I know you've been doing architecture, design, and whatnot before that. So you've got more experience beyond those 20 years. But as some people, number one, congratulations for successfully running a small business for that long. Not many people can say that. I guess you've learned a few lessons as you've gone down that road. What are the business lessons that you want to share with our listeners?
Let's set up the introduction to this. We were invited to be guest speakers at High Point University in the professional practice class. And in a interiors or architectural professional practice class, they talk about what are the real world things that you need to know. And so they invite guests. And while driving to High Point, we thought, well, everybody's going to tell them what to do in business. Why don't we tell them what not to do?
Because everyone tunes out. When you say, here's all the things to do, we've all done this. And when you write it down, you walk out and you forget it. That's the end of it.
You need to be good communicators. You need to know your roles and responsibilities. Oh, we covered all that stuff. All right, now you're going to tell us the bad stuff.
Well, so what we did is we kind of came up with a list of, it's kind of like the funny stories of things that drive us crazy, that basically makes you look bad as a business person. And
it's important to know what not to do as it is to know what to do.
I agree.
Even when I'm designing something, I want to know what do you not like. I have to know that.
Well, someone who comes in and has a list of, I don't like this, great, then I have a better chance of knowing what you do like.
Mm-hmm. So some of these are funny and some are not really so funny.
Well, hit us with it.
We were thinking number one was you said...
What? Okay, Ray's number one pet peeve are people
do the don't burn your bridges.
Oh, don't burn your bridges. First thing I tell interns, we've had quite a few interns, high school, university, come through our office. First things first, do not burn your bridges. And we as business owners, we're always working for the man. If you think you're not working for the man, you are sorely mistaken. But boy, there are times when you just want to tell that, when you're done with that project, whatever, tell them to go jump. And what's been interesting is there have been people who I've gotten laid off from, or I don't want to work with them, and I didn't burn the bridge. And lo and behold, somewhere, somehow, I end up working with them again. And guess what? This time, they're paying me. As opposed to the other way around where I was working for them. So it's been real interesting. But the first thing is, don't burn your bridges. And whoever's working for you need to realize you signed the check.
Right.
Yeah.
But don't burn the bridge, because literally, it's interesting because we came from the Triad and now here we are up in the foothills. We run into the same people we may have known 30 years ago, and now they're back. And now you've got to be able to work with them.
And it could be a pretty big business deal, and it could go well.
Yep.
Well, and that's probably good advice whether you're running a small business or working in a business, because you just never know who you're going to run into down the road. You want to have. You certainly don't want to destroy the relationship.
Yeah.
Well, now there's so much more information out there on LinkedIn and Facebook and whoever else, whatever else is coming next. But it's amazing. We had an intern who worked for us who did some not so nice things after she was gone. And lo and behold, guess what? Campbell Design is not on her LinkedIn. There's a real good reason. I would not be giving her a really good recommendation. So there was a bridge that was absolutely burned.
Good point.
My number one is, and while some of these only happen occasionally every 6 months, or the one that bothers me the most, and the one thing people do, what not to do in business, and I see it every day, is people don't sign their emails. If you're conducting business and you're trying to exchange money, you're trying to make a project happen, you're trying to pull money out of thin air, you cannot sign your emails, Jeff. I'm sorry. I'm sorry.
No, it's just Jeff. And then your email address will be something like ilovecoffee@aol.com. So not only do you have an email address that has nothing to do with your business.
Now, if you're asking me...
I do love coffee, though.
Well, I do, too. We drive Volvos. They automatically go right to Starbucks.
Okay.
It's built into the GPS.
It just because, we all get 100 emails a day, and I can't help you.
If I can't
If I
find
don't know who you are.
Right, and if what you needs a team of people to help you, I can't introduce you to the rest of the team because it's just Jeff.
Well, the example was this week. I got an email. We sent a contract to somebody. She had a question. I really would have liked to talk to her. I was out of the office. She signed her email with her name.
Nothing else.
No phone number. No other way to get in touch with her.
So it's sort of a level of professionalism that if you're going to be conducting business, you need to check that box and at least make it
Professional, and then also
easier.
just the right information.
It's amazing. I mean, set up your phone. Yeah, if you can't set it up, find a teenager to set it up for you, because everybody should have a signature on their email.
Yeah.
This is basic branding. You are branding yourself. And I don't care if this is a new business you're starting up. Somehow or another, people need to have a way to get in touch with you. And if it's only the worst part is it's only by email, but they immediately want an answer.
Yeah.
And sometimes email's great, but a phone call's better.
Yeah. And there are some funny ones. No wimpy fish handshakes. Don't chew gum at an interview.
I had someone come in.
These aren't like email addresses. These are just more things
I was
that
gonna
you should
say,
not do.
These are more
Having a professional email as opposed to Jeff loves coffee or worse.
Well, we have an example, but I'm not. This is where I would have to change all the names. But it was someone who owned a franchise, and he never signed his emails, and his email address was something like ishootHoops@AOL.com. Well, it had nothing to do with the fact that he ran a whole franchise of dentist offices. I understand you've always had this, but you can get a free Gmail account, you can get a free Yahoo account. It's so easy to do. Just be professional about it.
And I'm going to show some of my bias in that sometimes when I get email from someone that's got an AOL.com account,
Sends a message to you.
a little bit. Sorry, AOL people, don't sue me. We're with the mesh.com, .tv. But the AOL's a little bit dated. Gmail is free and easy to secure. Sorry, Dad, who has a AOL.com account, but that tells me a little something here as well.
I mean, if it's your personal account, that's fine. But I think if you're running it as a business, a lot of this comes down to branding. I mean, I worked for a furniture manufacturer, and I did showrooms, and it was all about how do you brand what you are selling. And remember, no matter what you're doing, you are your brand. 24/7. When you're going out for groceries, you don't know who you're going to run into. That might be the next person who says, hey, I'm thinking of adding on to my building.
I hear you. All right. What other things should we be telling our small business owners and entrepreneurs and people to avoid out there?
Well, here's some more light, funny ones. No wimpy fish handshakes and no chewing gum in an interview.
We had that happen at an interview, and all I could think of was Blazing Saddles when I was watching that one. And I literally said,
and we really
did they not tell you to not chew gum at the interview?
Don't chew gum in line?
Yeah, don't chew gum in line.
All right.
We actually set the poor kid up for a fall because we said, would you be comfortable talking to our clients without us on your own? And he's like, oh, yeah. And Julia said, would you be chewing gum when you did that?
Did he or she get it?
Yeah.
Well, they didn't get the job, obviously. But
there's a lot of cute resumes floating around that are on pink paper with logos and smell like roses, and that's not a very. We used to
Well, no, we had-
that.
I thought that was hip and trendy. I thought all the kids did that these days.
Well, no, and then we deal a lot with young students or young entrepreneurs, possibly, and they will do their resumes in class. And I went to print one out, and it cut all the edge of her name off and all the edge of everything she had done. And I said, and this was a girl who had great grades, who had a really good portfolio. And I said, did you print this out and look at it? She said, yeah. I said, well, did you print it out with not making it fit to paper? I said, this is why you're not getting a job, because basically it's cutting off your email address. I said, give it to your grandmother and ask her to print it out and see what happens.
And was she applying for like a design type job?
She wasn't. Literally, after I told her this, she got a job elsewhere in like a month.
Wow.
So some of these are really like basic things. We think they're basic. They're apparently not basic.
But they're not basic anymore. We talk about it all the time, the soft skills. In fact, it's so important to us at the college. It's a perfect lead-in that we have made our soft skills course, it's called Work-Based Learning, a requirement to graduate. When they learn how to do the resume, cover letter, thank you, interviewing tips, professional emails, all those things, because they have tremendous skills when they come out of CVCC, but they don't have tremendous technical skills they have. They don't necessarily have the soft skills they need to have.
Well, I think the soft skills are important, and it's something that can be taught. And
Yes,
I
that's
think
exactly
if you
right.
haven't been brought up, I mean, we look at our lives as entrepreneurs. We were not brought up by entrepreneurs at all.
Right.
This is brand new, learning how to network, learning how to bring in work. All of these things are not skills that we were taught, but just the basics. I never really understood like how to go out and network when I was started selling furniture. I didn't, I knew about handshaking and what, but what to say, what not. A lot of what not to say. I've learned a long time ago, and this is sort of a what not to do. You can tell somebody why something happened. And this goes back to my retail days. I learned so much about running a business on someone else's dime, working in retail, because I manage 25 women. If you can do that, you can pretty much do anything. And I say that as a woman. But
Yeah,
I didn't say that, Jay.
We can't say
we can't say that. But what was amazing to me is you can come in and tell me why you were late. And the dog ate my homework, whatever. It doesn't change the fact. You were late. Or I didn't make it in yesterday because so-and-so, something happened. People don't care why. I can tell you why your job wasn't done. Does it change the fact that it wasn't done? Nope. It might give you context, but it's not going to change facts. And I think that's a lot of how I run the business versus Ray. I mean, Ray will tell you why it didn't happen. I just know it didn't happen. And there's a difference in how we perceive things. That's why I do more the one-on-one as far as like human resources and dealing with staff, because that's sort of how I see the world.
Because he's obviously too empathetic, and you're not.
I'm not.
Okay.
Not anymore.
Yeah.
I think, but that comes with years of experience of, we try to be nice to our staff, and we try to, make a really great work environment. But there is a point where we are professionals, and you can why are you late every day? Telling me why you're late means either you have really poor planning skills or something else is up.
Well, we didn't used to think soft skills were coming to work on time or coming to work on a regular basis. But that's now a soft skill that we value them. Because a lot of our students, again, have good technical skills, but they don't realize that. They say, well, I'm really good at machining. I said, yeah, but you won't have that job more than a week or two if you don't come to school or you don't come to work at a regular time you're supposed to. It's 8 o'clock. You don't come in at 8:15 or 8:20.
Well, and you're talking about professional behavior, and before we started taping, we also talked that sometimes inappropriate language in the workplace or in meetings might also be a concern out there.
It is, and I'm not the best at any of that, but I have learned. I did work for the federal government. You need to behave appropriately. You have to realize who your client is. Right. If you're dealing with a 50-some-year-old woman, and that was the client, don't go. We can do a whole hour on alcohol-related things that people should not be doing. And there is a ton of stories that we have that have involved inappropriate things during networking, while you're on the road. And those are not good. I think people don't realize that what happens outside of work now can affect your work.
Definitely.
Yeah. I hope you still approve my expense report from Asheville, Gary.
I noticed it.
Yeah, there are there's some. I think I've hidden the stuff well, though.
It's those drink names that you gave you away.
Yes.
And dressing appropriately in front of a federal government employee. Don't dress like you're going to a picnic.
We had to write an employee handbook because we have Casual Fridays. Casual Fridays we had never spelled it out, and this was a younger employee, and he came in a graphic T-shirt, jams, and flip-flops, which Fridays actually, we have people who just drop by the office. Is this appropriate dress for someone coming by wanting to buy your services? And it's not so much that I'm like, am I of that age group? How you present yourself. You don't get this. There's the old, you don't get a second chance to make a first impression. And how you present yourself out there is so important. I mean, when we come by, if someone comes by my office, I think they pretty much know who the owners are. But, we had a situation, we went to a job site to meet with somebody. It was a factory. It wasn't us. It was someone else brought someone in. She wore flip-flops.
Open-toe shoes.
Open-toe shoes to a place where you had to wear steel-toed boots. Research your...
And she was asked to sit in the car and not come in at all.
No. Yeah. Hopefully she learned from that one.
Yeah.
But, we just find, like, a lot of the inappropriate things are just not thinking about your environment, about not, you aren't thinking about who their client is.
And what I tell people what not to do in business on this subject about the alcohol is you can have 2 drinks and close a deal. You can have more and lose everything. So don't drink more than 2 in front of a client. Or don't drink it all in front of a client.
Well, I know somebody that after 2 might blow the deal. So, I think it depends on the individual.
Yeah, it's a very dangerous area.
Yes.
I mean, we have other funny things that have happened at the business, as far as like don't wear your competitor's T-shirt to your business.
Probably a good rule to follow.
Yeah, that happened to us. They don't work there anymore either.
But it was free.
I'm glad we have
That's
this on tape.
exactly it. It's like, why don't you make T-shirts? I'm like, because that's not what we do.
Yeah.
We make buildings. I'm not branding we brand ourselves differently. We brand ourselves based on the buildings that we design. We are not going to go running around giving you pencils and giving you T-shirts. It's just not who we are.
This podcast is sponsored by Jackson Creative, a custom communication agency located in downtown Hickory, North Carolina, specializing in online content creation. To learn more, visit thejacksoncreative.com. Jackson Creative, we tell your story.
All right. Any other things that you would like to share with our listeners?
No, we can stop there with what not to do in business.
Well, while we have you guys here, I did want to ask you, in that Gary and I run into folks that are, when they're in startup mode, sometimes they're looking at buildings. They always, should I lease a building? Should I buy a building? Should I build a building? When people come to you, are there certain guidelines that you might throw out there in terms of saying, here's what you should be thinking about when you're going through that sort of decision?
We tell people that when you, if you're running a business out of your house or garage, there's a lot of benefit and low stress to that. When you bring it out.
That's for starting a business.
Yeah. When you bring it out into the public, there's enormous rules.
I think the first thing, we want to know that you have kind of at least a business plan of where you're going with what you want to do. And first step usually with a lot of people is they're leasing a space. I think the biggest fear is like, I'm going to go see an architect and it's going to cost me a fortune. Well, that's not really true, because we've seen people who buy a building that cannot be used for what they wanted to turn it into. And all that, you've just lost all your money there unless you can flip that building back. But even then, you've lost money. I think for us, the first thing is, what space are you looking at? What kind of information do you have? How do you want to run your business, and what do you want to put in here? Is it zoned appropriately? What county is it in? Because if you're in Catawba County, it's going to be different than if it's Lincoln County or Gaston County. Trying to think next thing to do.
Have some people, have a couple of professionals look at what you're about to buy if you're going to buy.
What is your budget?
Yeah.
I'll give you a perfect example is we have people who want to own a restaurant. Restaurants are of all the kinds of buildings we design, are one of the hardest. And I'll tell you why they're hard. You're not only dealing with building inspections, but you're also dealing with public health. So you need to have all these parts and pieces fit together.
And my advice is get those people, those officials from those departments there at the same time, because sometimes I've seen them give conflicting advice on what needs to be done.
Well, the other thing about running a restaurant, if you've never worked in one, it's a big uphill battle, and I've yet to see one succeed who hasn't already worked in that business. Mm-hmm. But, for example, get realistic, numbers of what all of your equipment's going to be.
Which can be how much? 135,000?
200,000.
200,000.
So significant. So, one of the things we want to do is look at a realistic budget. Someone will say, oh, they're going to upfit the space, so they're giving me $45 a square foot.
It's not enough.
It's not enough. That's basically might pay for your heating, maybe. That's it. You have no floor, you have no walls, you have no ceiling, you have no plumbing, you have no electrical. So we're trying to do is get realistic numbers from people, what they want, an idea of their business, and when do you want to be open? And then we can give them a list of, here's what we can control. It'll take this long to do your drawings. We're going to get these people involved because we have, depending on the job, there's different engineers that we want to work with. And then look at it realistically as far as, do you have a general contractor? Are you bidding this? Are you not bidding this? If you're on a tight budget, you need to work budget backwards.
We tell people if they're on a budget, if you want a restaurant, find one that's closed down and open it. Don't start with an old building that has nothing.
Or create a brand new one and you just manage your startup costs.
Or if you're on a budget and you want to open an insurance office, find an insurance office that's closed down.
Or something that was a business before.
That is a low cost way to proceed and jump into it. To find an old building and have a dream in your head, it's going to be really expensive.
It can be an expensive dream.
Yeah.
So.
Well, I think a lot of it is, what we try to do is be very realistic. Let's sit down. Tell me what your dream is. That's first thing. Tell me what you want to. I'm trying to think of somebody who came through. They want to build a mini storage. They've got the land. They've been in business before. They have a realistic idea of what they want to do. So the next step is for us to draw it up and give them a fee to just get to the point where someone can kind of give them an idea on numbers. Mm-hmm. That's a good example. We're working with a civil engineer, but right now we've got to be able to get that footprint done for someone to come in and start to price it. Then the next step is going to be, oh, that's great. Now I have an idea of what to talk to the bank about. Now I know where we're going to go next on this. And then we can work on the next step, which is the documents to be able to build that building. I was trying to think of a good example set there.
It can be taken in steps. And it should be. Any project should be taken. Let's do the first step. Let's get something on paper just so we can share it with everybody else. See if anybody sees any red flags.
But we run into examples we deal with a lot of churches. Mm-hmm. And churches a lot of times think they can go into a space where it was previously a business, and that won't work because there's all these rules because now you're a church. And churches have a whole set of rules equivalent to a nightclub.
That's true. Are you
really?
Do you have a project where?
Because they serve wine, is that it, or what?
No, it's an assembly space, and a lot of this came out of the Rhode Island fire years ago.
Okay,
and it literally set up this whole set of dominoes across the country.
Some buildings are inappropriate for your use, and you're using the word force. Yes, we can force this to happen, but then amazingly, some buildings that you wouldn't think would work for a church to do, like maybe an old Kmart that's already sprinkled and. If you don't need a high ceiling, but some buildings you wouldn't think are appropriate are, and then a lot of clients come and say, I think this building's appropriate for a church, but it's a wood frame, regulations, but it's like, no, that one's not appropriate. We can force it to happen, but forcing equates to money
cost.
spent.
Yeah. Well, you guys have given us a lot of good stuff to chew on. We also like to have our guests participate in our lightning round of questions. Well, which you got to give us quick answers to this, and there are two of you. It's almost if you had not been married as many years as you've been married, it would be more of a newlywed game where we'd say, what is Ray going to say, and Julia can predict it. Great. So, but we don't have really. So you can both. I would be interested to know how your answers compare. So here's our first lightning round question: what is your favorite vacation spot?
Italy.
I would say the same. Vegas as well.
Italy, Vegas.
Italy and Vegas, they're the same.
Not the same. I mean, Vegas has a little bit of everything.
Well, they have the Venetian.
Okay, that's true. All right, next question.
There we go.
Is a hot dog a sandwich?
No.
Ray, what do you think?
Yes.
Okay. Well,
I'll just say the opposite.
All right, next question. Your preference: Godfather, Star Wars, or Harry Potter?
Star Wars.
Star Wars. All right, in sync there. That's probably the more valid for a happy marriage. Having that question answered correctly, or the same at least. Favorite junk food? Quick.
Chocolate.
Is chocolate? Dark chocolate?
Yeah.
All right.
Chocolate,
Chips.
anything?
Chips? Potato chips?
Yes.
Okay. All right.
Oh, it's just potato chips.
All right. Last question. If you could have one superpower, what would it be?
Travel through time.
Travel through time. Julia, what do you say?
That's not fair. I'm the one who got you started on Doctor Who.
That can be your superpower too. You can travel through time together and spend eternity with one another.
I think time travel would be awesome.
All right. I think time travel's a great one. You be careful where you go.
Exactly.
So you don't want to end up.
She would do it for science. I'm doing it for music. So.
Okay. Right.
Who are you
That's
going to hang
interesting.
out
I'm going to
with?
go hang out with the Beach Boys and stuff. You know?
Oh, yeah.
I'm gonna go see
I'm good
the
with
Beatles.
that.
So I'm going to go see the Beatles. We're all right. Thank you guys very much. If people want to find Campbell Design, where should they be looking? How can they find you guys?
You can find us on the web at campbelldesign.com. And on Facebook, we are Campbell Design Architecture. And we're also on Pinterest. And I think if you just search Campbell Design, you'll find us there.
Facebook shows the more recent things we're doing.
Yeah, we keep Facebook way more up to date because it's so much faster.
Okay. Well, we really appreciate you guys joining us today at the Entrepreneur Exchange. We always finish the Entrepreneur Exchange where we share some interesting small businesses that we've come across. And Julia, Ray, you guys have a small business that you want to give a shout out to?
We were thinking about this last night. There's a unique business called Banana Box, which is salvage grocery.
In Newton.
Yeah.
And they just expanded to do bigger box things. But
You never know what you'll find. It's been so interesting going there over the past couple of years.
But Jamie and Royce have made that a small business where they know their customers, they know their people. They always have nice and friendly staff. They've done a good job of building that business over the years, and we like it because it's a local business. It's local. It's good for the economy.
And you said they do salvage
Groceries.
Yeah.
So
and
what?
sometimes it's a high-end product that no one wants. So you kind of luck into some great chocolate or some
great, or the really good potato
really
chips?
good coffee or something. So you never know, but it's fun to visit.
But I like it. I think part of it is I like being we like doing business with people that are local, and they've been local and they've stayed local.
And they're in Newton, North Carolina.
They are.
All right. Banana Box. I was not aware of them, but
I
I'm
was
gonna
not aware
check
of them
out. So, all right. Gary, you have a small business that you want to share with folks.
Yes, Jeff. My business of the month is Me and Bees Lemonade, which is launched by a young lady, Michaela Ulmer, in Austin, Texas. Have you heard of her?
I have not. I'd like to at Austin. I'll meet her if
You'll like this. This is why I picked it. She was encouraged by her parents at age 4 or 5 to develop a product related to a children's business competition. And she combined her great granny Helen's recipe for flaxseed lemonade and her fascination with bees. And then she added some local honey, and today her ideas continue to grow. But she's been using this product, and she, just like the lemonade stand, she sells it at different places around the town and in entrepreneur competitions. And she takes the proceeds and keeps a little bit for herself, and then puts the money toward saving the honeybees. And to tell you how successful the product is, she's actually selling her product in, make sure I've got this right, Whole Foods.
Whole Foods.
Nice.
So it's a real product. And she's now 14.
Okay.
So when she's not at the lemonade stand, she's promoting Save the Bees.
And maybe doing homework or something else, we hope.
Pretty good, I think.
Another good reason to visit Austin, Texas.
There you go.
So, I
Remember
they
that.
have a pretty good music scene, too, from what I can tell.
Yes.
Well, my small business is similar to that. This
Similar?
Yeah.
Kind of like we met a couple months ago.
Alert podcast listener Debbie S. sent me my small business of the month, which was an article that she saw in the Bangor, Maine Daily News titled "Maine Woman is Using Seaweed to Make Sexual Lubricant." So this was written by someone
Partner.
Troy Bennett. And this was in the newspaper from Portland, Maine. And usually I write something up, but I'm just going to read some portions of the article. So this is the article. When contemplating amorous late-night moves, slimy plants from the bottom of the sea probably isn't springing into most lovers' minds. One Maine woman hopes to change that. She's perfecting a seaweed-based, all-natural sexual lubricant made especially for Mainers planning on heading down east. This is quote. This is a personal and massage lubricant that can be used for any sort of sexual activities, said Mariah Curtis, 26, a Portland woman who grew up mostly in Arano, which I assume is a local town. Quote, it's safe to rub all over your body. It's totally absorbable, or you can wash it off. It's for any part of the body you want to have slick or wet for any reason. Curtis is calling her new formula, which still needs FDA approval to be sold commercially, See Me Lube. It's made from Irish moss, a local seaweed well known for gelling properties. The crinkled dark brown plant is abundant on the Maine coast. It thrives in water between 3 and 20 feet deep. In other personal lubricants on the market, sometimes Irish moss is used as a minor ingredient, but Curtis said hers will be the only one made primarily from the slippery aquatic plant. Quote, I wouldn't call this an invention as much as a personal formula. I just have a unique approach that is more natural and sustainable than what's currently available. Josh Rogers is a former Google product developer who now runs the Heritage Seaweed Shop in Portland. Rogers' shop is a boutique selling all things seaweed, including food, cosmetics, and home goods. He developed and produces seaweed-based cup of sea teas as well. Quote, she just walked in one day and said she was making seaweed lube, said Rogers. I just blinked and said, cool. Since then, he's mentoring Curtis, giving her marketing and networking advice. He is a real believer in her product and sees it as more than just a novelty. It's not ready. Curtis isn't ready to sell See Me Lube commercially just yet. She has to clear a few government approval hurdles, do a bit more testing and product refinement. But she's now looking for business partners and hoping to grow her company and sell it in retail outlets. So anyway, See Me Lube is my small business, even though it's not available yet. But if you want to learn about it, you can just Google Bangor Daily News Seaweed Lube, which we probably do on a regular basis.
Yes.
Even the community college computer will let you do that. The filter isn't that tight.
You got through there? That's interesting.
So you can read the article there, and hooray for entrepreneurs.
And that was close to my Me and the Bees lemonade?
Yeah, it made me think of that. So anyway.
Very good.
So we owe Debbie a Entrepreneur Exchange prize pack because if you email us at the e-exchange at themesh.tv with the small business that we use, we send you a prize pack. So we'll be sending one out to Debbie.
Very good.
We want to thank Ray and Julia Campbell and Campbell Design for joining us today on the Entrepreneur Exchange. Thank you guys so much for being here. We enjoyed it.
Thank you for having us.
It was great.
We want to thank themesh.tv. You should be checking out all of the Mesh podcasts by going to themesh.tv and see the whole, all the podcasts that are available out there. You can subscribe or you can download us at the usual suspect podcast sites. We appreciate you listening, and we'll look forward to talking to you again next month.
And next month we'll be talking about the Carolina Tar Heels as the national champs.
We hope. All right, well,
that's coming from a Wake Forest fan.
Don't jinx us, Gary. All right, have a good one.
Take care.
You've been listening to The Mesh, an online media network of shows and programs ranging from business to arts, sports to entertainment, music to community. All programs are available on the website as well as through iTunes and YouTube. Check us out online at themesh.tv. Discover other network shows and give us feedback on what you just heard.